Okay, the next thing we're going to look at within Final Cut Pro is how to add motion or movement to individual clips. And the first thing we're going to work with is an animation of a title. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and look at this title in my timeline here that we created just a second ago. And this title right now is only 5 seconds long. I'm going to stretch it out so that it goes to 10 seconds. So I have a little bit of duration here of this font that I can play around with. Okay, then I'm going to double click it to make sure that I load it into the viewer, because I want to animate just this instance of the clip, just the one that's in my timeline. Now you're going to notice up over in the viewer window there is this tab up over here that's called the motion tab. Okay, I talked about it briefly when we went over to the viewer, but now we're actually going to use it. Okay, the area we're looking at over here is basic motion. Notice that I can change scale. Okay, scale refers to the size, so when I drag scale slider up and down, you can see the image gets smaller or bigger. Okay, rotation, well, guess what that does? Yep, it spins the title. Okay, or any layer. Center point is kind of interesting. This is the one that's going to allow us to change the center point of the object over time. So notice right now it's at 0, 0, and that's because the center of this frame is exactly in the middle of the image that we have here. But when I move it, notice how the numbers change. Okay, see how it's negative, negative 18, so forth. The height and width of that, the parameters of that change. So we're going to come back to that. Then anchor point has to do with where the center of that image falls. Okay. So as I talked about before, animation is about setting a property in time, okay, and then changing time and changing the value of that property. So in this clip, we're going to move our play to the very beginning. I can see again that this is the beginning of the clip, one, because it's in the timeline down over here, but then also up over here because the light gray area represents the clip, the dark gray area represents the actual empty space of the timeline. Okay. Now I'm going to come over here to this canvas window, and I'm going to do some of my animation using the canvas window. Okay, I want you to make sure that a couple things are available to you here as you work to help you work in this workspace. The first is we're going to shrink this down a little bit so we can see what's called the off-screen space. So you notice at 50% I can see all this gray area around the clip. Okay, that's going to help me because when I grab this clip and move it off screen, now I can see that, you know, this area with the clip over here, my audience is not going to see that. Over here this is empty. Okay, also notice how I was able to grab the clip and move it over. The reason I was able to do that is because I had image and wireframe selected. If I just have image and I go to move this, I'm not going to be able to move it. Okay, I have to select image and wireframe. Wireframe is kind of like a handle that's put on the clip. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab it now and move it out. All right, and since my plate is at the beginning, I've positioned my clip where I want it to be at the start of my animation. I'm going to go ahead and tell the computer to remember this by setting a keyframe. I click the little dot, and sure enough, there's the green dot, and there is my keyframe that's been added. Nothing fancy, just a black dot. Okay. Now that I have that first property, I'm going to change time. Here I go. I'm going to move this so that halfway through the clip, I know it's halfway because I'm halfway in this gray area, I'm going to go ahead and click and drag this over. Now you're noticing something there. Okay, it's this little purple line. Okay, that little purple line represents the motion path from one keyframe to the other. Okay, you shrink back down, and you can see that now if I were to move my playhead, notice how the name moves with the playhead. Okay, very cool. So right there in and of itself, if I just hit play, I've created a very simple basic animation of my name just flying in. Okay, it doesn't have to stop there. Let the fun continue. I can also use these little triangles here on each side of the keyframe button. You see that it says previous keyframe? Okay, to line it up so that when I want to change the value of a keyframe, I can just put it on that keyframe and then change its position in time. So say I wanted it to go lower or higher, okay? As long as the keyframe, the playhead's on the exact keyframe, I can change the value of that keyframe in that specific moment of time. Say I want to add something else though, like rotation. Okay, well, I'm going to go back to the very beginning and I'm going to set a keyframe for rotation. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to that previous frame, and now over that course of time I want it to spin twice, so I'm going to have it go to 720. Alright, and now if I bring my playhead back again and I hit the play button or space bar, notice that now not only is my name coming in, but it spins, and then boom, it sticks. Okay? So just like that, I was able to rotate and spin. Now I'm going to add a third, okay? And this is the scale, all right? At this point, once it reaches this piece, I want my name to scale up out of the frame, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and set a keyframe for scale at this point where it stops. And then I'm going to move my playhead to the end of the clip. And I'm going to scale it up so my name gets bigger than the screen, okay? Now, since I also noticed that it kind of went off the screen, I want that to kind of float down over time from that center point. So now if I just click and drag it so that my name floats out this way, okay, you'll notice that when I come back and watch that, my name scrolls up so that the G goes right through the frame and then it just stops, okay? And just like that, I've added 3 properties to my animations of scale, rotation, and center point. So please right now go ahead and try to animate your name so that you can get it to fly in and rotate and scale. And as a last one, I'll just throw a little quick cross dissolve at the very end to get it to fade out very easily instead of animating opacity. So now, shoom, my name flies out. I'll make this large so you can see it by saying fit to window, and this is what my audience would see if they were watching it in the theater. Okay, there comes the name, rolling in, stops, scales up, and as it does, it fades out. Okay, have fun with it.